try to deliver focuses in our position, which we like to bring into the discussion. And as the minister in his opening speech said, this is what the essence of this conference is. Maybe we can offer the one or the other aspect, which is worth to be discussed also here in Denmark. The first thing I would like to address is a tendency which has a lot to do with Andeka's presentation, which is an obvious tendency in the product arena when it comes to chemical product. And the other aspect I would like to mention is that it is our aim to establish resource efficiency as an additional goal within chemicals policy. Interesting. So if we come to a brief analysis, what are the predominant pillars of EU chemicals policy nowadays? It is about gathering information on chemical substances, gathering information on how they are exposed to man and the environment, and based on these two tendencies we are establishing links to risk management. And of course this toolbox has led to impressive achievements, there's no doubt about that. But when we are really talking about a non-toxic environment, if we really have this goal in front of us, I think we have to think a lot out of this toolbox. And there are two tendencies on the market within the economic arena I think we should aggressively and actively make use of. The first tendency is, and to give you another example compared to what is here on the screen, there is a bakery chain in Austria which is advertising the new bread with a list of ingredients which are not inside. And this is really amazing. If you go through this list, I think, is this a vacuum or is it bread? But there is a strong tendency on the market that as soon there is a substance in the focus of being regulated, aggressively producers use this momentum and say, no, our product is free from that. And this can be observed in cosmetics, in all kinds of products. And if this is an active trend to demonstrate to the customers that my product or even my company has nothing to do with these ugly substances, let's make use of this. We already heard that it was also demonstrated in the video. The gentleman is orienting himself now in his consumer behavior on the various labels. But we should give these labels an additional trend, and we should be more creative using voluntary agreements. Just these days, there's a coalition formed between retailers and NGOs in Austria. They are forming a label which says this cosmetic product is free from endocrine disrupting substances. So there are various possibilities of forming alliances and making use of this free from is the new excellent trend on the market. And maybe it could be a good idea to develop a brand for the non-toxic environment strategy, to get products and also companies on board saying, I'm an ally of this trend. Look, my product fulfills certain requirements. My company complies with a certain set of criteria. So I think we should actively make use of this existing trend that products or companies want to demonstrate that they are part of the toxic-free or non-toxic trend. The second element I think we should actively make use of is that we observe that the traditional business model in the chemicals industry, here is the producer selling a chemical to the user, that this trend is about to vanish. This is not our reflection. This is what leading consultancy companies say, that if the chemical industry in Europe will have a real perspective, consumer orientation or customer orientation for them means that they have to gain insight into how their product is actually applied. The chemical industry in Europe is entering the age of application, and focusing on the customer needs for the chemical industry means that they have to deal a lot more than they currently do about how the chemicals are applied. This is also the essence of Accenture's analysis, that the focus shouldn't be on the product so much, but what is the performance of the product. It is not about selling a cleaner, it is not about selling a process chemical, it's about selling maintenance, it's about selling cleaning, it's about the service behind the chemical products. And so there is a trend within the chemical industry that is focusing on energy efficient products, on efficiency manufacturing processes and alternative feedstocks. So bringing this down to our reach and framing instruments, reality, a REACH 2.0, we are not advocating for a new legislative proposal, but REACH 2.0 is just a chiffre for saying what will be how will we develop chemicals policy further. And one element could be that our current system is much about using the right chemical, and the future system will be much more like using chemicals right. But this requires that we have to develop additional instruments. Our current regime doesn't address resource efficiency actively. Efficient use of chemicals is maybe a side effect of the current system, but it doesn't actively address efficient use as a goal. And bringing this down to our REACH reality, when it comes to registration, for instance, there are the exposure scenarios inside, and the future exposure scenarios, they could contain also targets for resource efficiency. Second element, of course, is authorization. That within the authorization regime, there is a continuous process of optimized application, but we should develop into our regime also adequate tools to adequately monitor flows of chemicals in order to ensure the continuous optimization of application and uses, in particular for substances of very high concern. So a first step could be to use the present authorization regime to establish a resource efficiency target and to adequately monitor them. And for me, this could be also a future task for the European Chemicals Agency. They are now having a huge treasure chest of information on chemicals in application. And in a REACH 2.0, I think we should begin to start making use of all this information and having a look not only on substances and their properties and their exposure, but also how are the substances applied, and in order to ensure resource efficient use. Now, in the conventional economic paradigm, if a company sells less chemicals, it will earn less money. It goes without saying. So aren't there business models out there who manage that it becomes also attractive for the producer of a chemical, that his substance is used effectively? This is what we need. We need a business model which has an economic trigger also for the producer of chemical substances for efficient use. So this switch from product-oriented thinking to service-oriented thinking has to be embedded in adequate business models. Selling services instead of barrels, this is the target for the future chemical industry, because if I'm selling clean surfaces and I'm also the producer of the cleaner, it is becoming my economic profit if less cleaner is used. If I'm producing paints and I manage to paint a car with less paint, and I'm paid per painted unit, it is becoming my economic profit if less chemical is used. We are using the term chemical leasing for these chemical-oriented, service-oriented business models. But I think it would be vital to develop our current system further in order to also not only support but also demand service-oriented business models being applied. So in essence, there are major economic trends we should embrace and embed in our strategies. And my two examples I wanted to stress are this toxic-free is the new excellent. I think we should make actively use of this trend. And the other thing is embed resource efficiency into our toolbox as a goal also for chemical industry, and service-oriented business models are right in the heart of this tendency. Thank you very much for your attention.